There are two kinds of heartbreak. The kind where someone hurts you, and the kind where you wake up one day and realize you were the storm the whole time. No villain, no betrayal, no third person. Just you, slowly turning someone's love into a waiting room. And the worst part? You don't even notice while it's happening. You're busy. You're building. You're stressed. You tell yourself it's temporary. You tell yourself they understand. And then one day, they stop texting first. They stop asking. They stop trying to be the person who holds everything together while you stay half present. That's how it started ending for me, quietly, like someone turning down the volume on a song you didn't realize you were addicted to. I used to think being the problem meant being toxic on purpose, like you had to be cruel, loud, dramatic. But the truth is, you can ruin someone gently. You can ruin someone with good intentions. You can ruin someone while still saying, I love you. You can ruin someone just by never fully arriving, by treating them like a pause button you press when life gets too loud, then forget to unpause when they need you. I didn't do it because I didn't care. I did it because I thought my way of caring was enough. And that's the lie I lived inside for a long time. Let me say the part that hurts the most. She wasn't asking for perfect. She was asking for real. Not grand gestures, not proof, not a ring, just reality. A partner who didn't make her feel like she was always competing with something invisible. And I kept giving her logic instead of presence. I kept giving her explanations instead of effort. I kept giving her later, like it was a love language. And later is the most dangerous word you can hand someone who's already lonely. The way it looks from the outside is always flattering. People see success and assume your life is full. They assume your confidence is stable. They assume your intensity is strength. But intensity can be a hiding place. It can be a perfect excuse to avoid the parts of love that require softness. Because softness isn't something you can engineer. You can't optimize tenderness. You can't spreadsheet emotional safety. And when you're someone who spends your whole life solving problems, you start treating people like problems too. You start thinking if you just say the right thing, the emotions will settle, like feelings are bugs in the system. She used to call me out gently, not with accusations, with small truths. You're here, but you're not here. I miss you even when you're sitting next to me. I don't know where you go when you go quiet. At first, I thought she was being dramatic. Then I thought she was just emotional. Then I thought, okay, maybe she's right. I should improve. But improvement became another task I kept postponing. I'd hear her and still not change. Because the most brutal thing about being the problem is that you can be self-aware and still selfish. You can understand it and still repeat it. I didn't realize how much she was carrying until she stopped carrying it. Because when someone loves you, they quietly do emotional labor you never asked for. They translate your silence. They forgive your distance. They fill in your gaps with their own hope. They give you the benefit of the doubt so often it becomes their personality. And the relationship starts to look fine because they're making it fine. They're managing the mood. They're controlling the tension. They're swallowing their hurt so you can keep functioning. And you start believing that means everything is stable. You start believing you're doing okay. But what you're actually doing is consuming their softness. I remember the first time I saw it in her eyes, that shift, that tiredness that isn't about sleep. It's about being emotionally underfed for too long. She was listening to me talk, but the light behind her face was dimmer. And I thought it was her day, her mood, her stress. I didn't think it was me, because I was used to being the main character in my own story. I didn't understand I was also the main problem in hers. Here's what I was doing without admitting it. I was training her to accept less. Training her to not expect replies quickly. Training her to not plan dates because they might get canceled. Training her to not bring up hard conversations because I'd either get defensive or disappear into I'm busy. And the sick part is, I thought I was teaching her how my life works. Like it was her job to adapt. Like love meant learning to tolerate my worst patterns. Like if she loved me, she'd stop meeting things. Gen Z calls it bare minimum, and I hate how accurate that is. Because I wasn't starving her with hate, I was starving her with half love, with affection that showed up only when it was convenient, with attention that came in bursts like intermittent reinforcement. And intermittent reinforcement is addictive. It makes people chase.
It makes them blame themselves. It makes them try harder. And I benefited from that without even realizing it. That's what makes it ugly. It wasn't planned. It was just my comfort. I kept thinking, when this launch is done, when this quarter is over, when this crisis settles, then I'll be better. But there's always a next thing, always another fire, always another urgent problem. And love doesn't survive on delayed promises. Love survives on consistent presence. Not constant presence, consistent. The kind that makes someone feel safe. The kind that makes them stop overthinking. The kind that makes them feel chosen without having to beg. She didn't beg. That's what I miss the most. She never begged. She just became quieter. She became simpler. She stopped fighting for space because she didn't want to be the needy girlfriend. She didn't want to be labeled. She didn't want to be dismissed.
So she tried to be cool. She tried to be understanding. She tried to be the girl who doesn't complain because she thought that version of her would be easier to love. And I let her do that. I watched her shrink herself, and I called it maturity. I called it compatibility. I called it she gets me. I didn't call it what it really was, self-erasure. The moment I realized I was the problem wasn't dramatic. It was painfully modern. It was a small moment that felt like nothing until it became everything. I sent her a message after a long day. Not even a big message, just a "you good?" type of thing. She replied with one word, "Yeah." No emoji, no softness, no extra line, just "yeah." I stared at that "yeah" longer than I've stared at some engineering problems.
Because a yeah can be a wall. A yeah can be someone protecting themselves from hoping. A yeah can be a person deciding to stop bleeding where you won't bandage. So I called her, and she didn't pick up. No decline, no busy, just ringing, silence, then nothing. And that's when the panic hit. Not because she didn't answer, but because for the first time, I felt what she had been feeling for months. Uncertainty. That floating feeling. That do I matter feeling. That am I alone in this feeling. And I hated it. I hated it so much I almost blamed her for it. That's another sign you're the problem. When someone finally matches your energy and you can't handle it. When they finally stop chasing you and you feel abandoned. When they finally stop over-explaining and you feel confused. When they finally protect their peace and you call it cold. Because it's easier to call them cold than to admit you were warm only when it suited you. The next day, she asked to talk. That phrase is never casual. We need to talk isn't a conversation, it's a verdict. And I came into it ready to fix it like a system. Ready to apologize, negotiate, offer improvements. But she didn't want a plan, she wanted truth. And truth doesn't bargain. She said, "I don't think you're a bad person. I think you're just not safe for me anymore." That sentence doesn't sound loud, but it destroys you. Because it means your intentions don't matter. Your gifts don't matter. Your "I love you" doesn't matter. Because the outcome of your behavior is what the body remembers. And her body remembered anxiety. Her body remembered waiting. Her body remembered feeling like she had to earn your attention. Her body remembered feeling small. I tried to defend myself. I tried to explain the pressure, the work, the mission, the responsibility. And she listened. She actually listened. Then she said something that ended every excuse I had. She said, "I know your life is intense, but you choose what you protect, and you never protected us." I felt that in my chest, because she didn't say I failed. She said I didn't
protect.
Which means I had the ability. I just didn't prioritize it. And it forced me to see what I had been refusing to see. I protected my schedule. I protected my focus. I protected my image. I protected my comfort. I protected my mission. I protected everything except the person who was quietly trying to love me. That's when I realized too late, I was the problem. Because love isn't only what you feel. Love is what you maintain. Love is what you show up for. Love is how you respond when it's inconvenient. Love is whether someone feels held by you or handled by you. And I had been handling her. I asked her what she needed. She didn't even have a list. That's how far gone it was. She said, "I needed you months ago. I needed you when I was still hopeful. Now I just need to leave before I hate you." That's a level of self-respect that looks like cruelty when you're on the receiving end. But it wasn't cruelty. It was survival. She was choosing to exit before resentment turned her into someone she didn't recognize. And I did the most predictable thing. I promised change. I promised therapy. I promised boundaries. I promised time. I promised presence. I promised everything someone promises when they're terrified. And she looked at me, so calm, so tired, and said, "You always start changing when you're about to lose me. I don't want to be your emergency." That line, "I don't want to be your emergency," is what I think about when I'm alone now. Because it exposed my pattern. I wasn't consistent. I was reactive. I wasn't loving her daily. I was panicking when the consequence arrived. She left. Not in a dramatic way. No screaming. No slamming doors. Just a quiet exit that felt like someone turned off the electricity in my life. And the weirdest part is how fast the world moved on. Meetings still happened. Messages still came. Work still demanded. And I still functioned. But inside, something was missing that I couldn't replace with productivity. That's when the regret became physical. I'd be in a room full of people and feel alone. I'd accomplish something huge and feel empty. I'd finish a day and reach for my phone like it would save me, like a text from her could undo months of neglect. And I'd remember, you can't text your way out of a pattern. I started replaying moments, not just the breakup talk, everything. Every time she tried to connect and I stayed distracted. Every time she asked for a simple thing and I made it complicated. Every time she said, "It's okay," and I accepted that instead of checking if it was true. Every time she forgave me and I treated forgiveness like permission. People think the pain is losing the person. Sometimes the deeper pain is realizing you trained them to stop loving you. Like you watched the love die in real time and did nothing because you assumed it was immortal. Here's the part I'm ashamed to admit. I didn't miss her the most when I was sad. I missed her the most when I was calm, when I finally had time, when the noise lowered, when my brain wasn't on fire. Because that's when I felt what I'd done. I'd finally created the space she wanted after she was gone. That's the cruelty of too late. Too late means the lesson arrives when there's no one left to benefit from it. So I started asking myself the question that hurts more than any headline. Why was I like that? And I found an answer I didn't like. The answer wasn't work. Work was the excuse. The answer was fear. Because love requires being seen. Love requires letting someone matter enough to influence you. And when you're used to control, being influenced feels like danger. So you keep people close enough to feel loved, but far enough to stay in control. That's what I did. I kept her in orbit, close, but not central. And she got tired of being a satellite in my life. Gen Z has a brutal way of phrasing things, but it's honest. If he wanted to, he would. I used to hate that sentence because it sounds simplistic, but the core of it is true. Not in every situation, not in every moment, but in the pattern, in the consistency, in the priorities, in the way someone makes you feel chosen.
She didn't feel chosen, she felt optional, and I made her feel that. I realized too late that being the problem isn't always about doing the worst thing. Sometimes it's about not doing the necessary thing, the thing that looks small but keeps love alive. Checking in, showing up, apologizing without defensiveness, asking questions, listening without solving, holding space without escaping into logic. That's what she needed, and I was too busy being important to be intimate. Now, the weird thing about admitting you were the problem is that it doesn't fix anything. It doesn't bring them back. It doesn't rewrite the story. It just makes you honest. And honesty is painful because it removes the comforting lie that you were unlucky or misunderstood. It forces you to accept that you had choices and you chose wrong. So what do I do with that? I don't chase her. I don't send paragraphs at 2 a.m. I don't try to reopen a door she closed to save herself, because that would be selfish. That would be me using her again, using her as a way to relieve my guilt, and I'm done doing that. Instead, I sit with it. I let the silence teach me. I let the absence show me what presence actually meant. I let the regret become information instead of a punishment, because if this pain doesn't change me, then it was wasted, and she didn't deserve to be a lesson I never apply. The hardest part is that I can see now how much she tried, how she stayed longer than she should have because she saw something in me that I wasn't delivering yet. She believed in potential. She believed in the version of me that could be present, and I repaid that belief with delays and distractions and soon. That's not love. That's consumption. So I'm rewriting what love means to me. Love isn't someone who understands your chaos. Love is you choosing to not make your chaos their home. Love isn't someone who stays despite your absence. Love is you learning how to show up so they don't have to be strong all the time. Love isn't the words you say when you're afraid to lose them. Love is the behavior you practice when you're not afraid at all. If I ever love again, I won't love like that. I won't be the person who makes someone earn basic reassurance. I won't be the person who thinks silence is neutral. I won't be the person who treats emotional needs like optional features. Because the truth is, she didn't leave because she stopped loving me. She left because she started loving herself more. And that's the kind of woman you don't replace. That's the kind of woman you regret quietly for a long time. Sometimes I imagine a parallel timeline, one where I listened earlier, one where I noticed her eyes, one where I protected us before it became an emergency. And I don't let myself stay there long because fantasy is a trap. But I let it visit me just enough to keep me honest. Because the point isn't to punish myself forever. The point is to become the kind of man who doesn't need too late to wake up. So yes, I realized too late. I was the problem. Not because I didn't love her, but because I loved my control more. And I'm not proud of that, but I'm owning it, fully, without excuses, without the, but you don't understand my life. Because she understood my life. She just refused to disappear inside it. That's what changed me. If you're listening to this and you recognize yourself, if you've been calling your absence busy, if you've been calling your avoidance space, if you've been calling your inconsistency just how I am, hear me clearly. The person you love is not an unlimited resource. Their patience is not infinite. Their softness is not permanent if you keep stepping on it. You don't lose people in one day. You lose them in small moments, in ignored texts, in canceled plans, in conversations you cut short, in apologies you repeat without change. In love, you expect them to carry alone. And then one day they leave, and you finally feel everything you made them feel. That's what too late really is. It's not a clock, it's a consequence. I can't undo what I did. I can't make her come back. I can't rewrite the version of me that hurt her by being half there. But I can make one promise, the only one that matters now. I won't be that problem again. Not for her, not for anyone. Because the next time love shows up, I want to be a safe place, not a lesson. And if that means I have to unlearn the parts of me that confuse distance with strength, then I'll do it. Quietly, consistently, without applause, without announcing it. Because real change doesn't look dramatic. It looks like showing up when it's boring. It looks like answering the text. It looks like choosing presence. It looks like protecting what you have before it becomes a funeral. That's the version of me I'm building now. Not the version that reaches Mars, the version that can stay. And if that sounds less impressive, good. Because impressive was never what she needed. She needed real. And I learned that too late. But I learned it, and I'm not letting it go.